Welcome to the No Nerds, No Problem podcast. This week's guest is Jared Robin, founder of RevGenius. We're going to be talking about community, an incredibly powerful but often overlooked technique for building an MVP one member at a time. We're going to be talking about how Jared built RevGenius using off-the-shelf, no-code and low-code tools, as well as how his team was able to leverage their 24,000 member community to build and launch a product that was profitable from day one. Enjoy the show. Hey there, welcome to No Nerds, No Problem, the show where we talk about non-technical founders and interview non-technical founders. Today we have just a person, Jared Robin. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm the least technical founder. Nice to be here.
We should have a contest at the end of the season. We'll have all of you back on, and you guys can duke it out for least technical.
The irony is you become more technical than you've been and still less technical than a developer along the time, but you probably become better at managing those people.
So there's two reasons why I wanted you to come on today. The first one is that exact experience there. You've built RevGenius, you're founder at RevGenius as a non-technical founder. You guys have assembled a decent amount of tech now. You guys have the site, you've got events, you've got a jobs board. So there's quite a bit of tech involved now. So I want to talk about all that. But the other reason, just so everyone's aware of the other reason coming down the pike, RevGenius is first and foremost an online community. And community is a really great place for non-technical founders to operate or to start. And so I would love to hear also about your experience building a community so that we can kind of share that. But let's start at the beginning. How did you come up with RevGenius? What's that kind of founding story?
Yeah, so RevGenius got started because, my interest in communities happened a little before RevGenius. It was 2020. I wanted to find a new job, and I wanted to lean in to LinkedIn and communities to do that. And there was a few communities in the space. There was Revenue Collective at the time, Modern Sales Pros, and a few others. So I'm like, I'm gonna figure out and find a job. So I ended up losing my job, and nothing. There was nothing that was going to help me because COVID happened, and it was just a difficult time for us all. Mm-hmm. So I decided to lean in even harder. And building on LinkedIn was a big part of that. And when I say building, I was building myself. I wasn't necessarily building a community yet or a product yet. I was just showing up, and I was still looking for a job, but I was building my personal brand. Not technical at all. I just showed up and made posts, right? And along the way, I made some friends, like as people who comment on other posts regularly do. And we decided to have a side chat, as people that become friends do, right? Like on LinkedIn. And then we had this group chat, and we just started adding other friends to it and renamed it. Before we even renamed it, the person who started RevGenius and myself were like, oh, there's so many events happening. And I was going to a lot of them because I was looking for work. Mm-hmm. And they were so fragmented in how they got there. And still to this day they are. We didn't really solve the original problem we were going for. You get millions of emails, all relevant sources. Like they're targeting you correctly, but like you just don't know which way is up, right? So we're like, why don't we just create like the Eventbrite for sales and marketing? We were planning on building it on WordPress. I was planning on having a technical person build it for me on WordPress, right? The irony. And the irony as I'm saying it now, and WordPress isn't, super technical, but it's a little technical, right? Mm-hmm. And what we realized was we created this Google Sheet, put all the events in, another not technical tool, super easy. If you could sign up for anything online, you could sign up for Google. And we put all the events in every week, just listed them, and we did our research all week, and we put it on there. And we circulated it to this now 20, 30 person group of people. So how it worked from there was we realized that there was more interest in each other than in the spreadsheet. And we realized we were breaking everybody's LinkedIn every day. And then I'm like, okay, I think we have like the beginnings of a community here, like people that
Hmm.
really enjoy helping one another. I looked at the community space, some of the same communities that I was a part of, um, a couple others that were out there. And I realized that there was no really open, inclusive, accessible, like no cost options out there. Some of the others that I was in were because I was a senior leader in the space, were because I paid money, right? And
Hmm.
there was nothing for everybody. And I'm like, wait, really? Like this is kind of a no brainer. And RevGenius was born, and sure enough, within the first 3 months, we had like 5,000 members. And it was because of tenacity getting people on, but also because there was clear product market fit, right?
Hmm.
So that's really the story behind it.
Something that you've just mentioned that is something I've noticed from your guys' materials on your site is you guys do a lot with juniors. It's not just like you mentioned, oh, you're in this other community because of your position as a senior leader in the space.
Mhm.
You guys do quite a bit with entry level and junior level sales professionals.
Yeah, I mean individual contributors, right? Like people that aren't
Yeah.
managing teams in general. And we do. And what we realized along the way, like we let everybody in. Um, what we realized along the way, the people that were the most active and engaged were these individual contributors, right? Like people that weren't necessarily managing teams and things to that effect. And they had such energy, um, going through their journey because they hadn't yet made it per se.
Right.
And and it was really interesting. And um, yeah, so we have the whole gamut. So you could have a CRO and an SDR, the first role traditionally in sales and the top role in the revenue organization in the same community, and they need one another, right?
Yeah.
The SDR needs to learn, and the CRO needs to grow.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we're both humans, and sure, a senior leader might have more knowledge and more capacity, but you're still one person, right? And you need to leverage one another. And that was a big part of it. And then also not just sales, but marketing, RevOps, and customer success was important because the revenue org leverages other people. So like it was very important early on to be representative of the whole space and not just one
Hmm.
sector within it.
And that's something you can do with a community too, right? You don't have to be as dialed in on, oh, we offer this very specific service to this very specific person. It's no, this is a place where we can come together.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. But I will say this: when you niche down, you are creating something in general, and it could be community too. You are creating something very specific, and if you do it right, um, will be will go very well for you, right? Like it keeps it simplifies things. So I don't
Hmm.
want to poo poo the fact that niching down, like the simpler you make it, the easier it is to succeed. It is not
Awesome.
easy when you have a bunch of stuff, and that's why you see us potentially see us focusing in like one area in this whole thing, even though we have everybody in. Um, the SDR function is a function that we've quote unquote gone to market with as our first
Hmm.
focus within the larger community that we have as we fine tune our offering to each way. So like even we've niched down within a broader community.
So I love this story of community N of one, first of all, right? You are posting on LinkedIn. Now you're a community of a couple because you've got this friends group, you grow to 20, and now you're 5,000 in the first 5 months. Now how many people do you guys have?
24, 25,000,
So so many.
27,000 on LinkedIn, and all organic.
Mhm.
I went out. I estimate I personally invited 5,000 people. It might be a
Yeah.
little less. It honestly might be just a little. It might be 3 to 5,000.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think that that's part of the success is that, um, and even as recently as like last month, I was still going ham on it, and I'll get back into it because when you draw a connection with people, like
Mhm.
it's next level. You feel that one to one, and that's especially important today. Um,
Right.
Today, more so than 2 years ago, more so than 10 years ago, more so than 20 years ago, today, people realize they're individuals. Like they're
Hmm.
not part of that company. They're not scared to lose their job. In fact, they're looking for new jobs. The
Right.
great resignation, whether you like the phrase or not, the sentiment is real. The
Right.
sentiment behind the great resignation is real, and people just want to be empowered. They want to have more power, and they want to feel like they're a human. And when you reach out to them in that way, like even if it's a canned message, as long as you're doing it without automation and like responding right away, it's big. And you could use automation too, but I'm saying there's a little extra something when they're like, they ask a question, you're responding in like sub 5 minutes
Right.
as a human.
Hmm.
There's a little extra something, which I think in the community setting is essential.
Yeah.
It's secret sauce, actually.
So I love that. Definitely something that you need to be hands on early on with the community.
Mhm.
Let's talk about this transition from this 20-person group chat to what RevGenius is now, which again, you guys have a pretty full featured site, right? You've got a jobs board, you have
Yep.
the events page. What was that kind of first couple steps into the tech land, right? Building this site out.
So the first question is WordPress or Webflow.
Okay.
If you
Right.
want to break it down to technologies, and when we built our site like over a year ago, Webflow was big, but WordPress was still the behemoth.
Hmm.
Webflow today is like people get it much more, but like a year and a half ago, um, less people got it, right? Less people
Yeah.
got the no code world than they do today, and certainly in SaaS, it's a little slower moving towards that no code. So decided on Webflow, on a no code system. Tried to get some templates and figure it out myself. It is not as easy as a Wix or a Squarespace, but it is worth a little more difficulties.
Hmm.
How did I figure it out? I literally I'm a stickler on
Yeah.
design, and I found design inspiration elsewhere. And then I found somebody on Facebook in a Webflow group to pay $200 to duplicate the skeleton of another site and put our visuals, put our all of that on top of it. I'm like, you just need to pixel perfect do this, and the person did it between $200 and $300. I had two people that I met on a Webflow Facebook group, individual
That's awesome.
independent contractors overseas. One was, I believe, Indian or Pakistani. One
Hmm.
was somewhere in like Europe, like Norway-ish.
Okay.
So it was super cool.
Yeah. I mean, talk about scrappy, like site for $200. That's awesome.
Yep. And it looked exactly how I wanted it to.
Are you guys still running on that or have you grown since then?
We're still on Webflow.
That's awesome. I
Um,
mean, because again, you guys have, it's not just a website, right? There's a web app component to what you guys are running on.
so the web app component is a third party if you're talking about
Okay.
the job board.
Sure.
Um, Signups are through Outseta right now, and we use Typeform a lot. We have HubSpot as our CRM, and they all play
Cool.
pretty nice with each other. I will say this: we considered building on Bubble.
Hmm.
We were going to hire an agency for that. We actually have an agency. I'll plug them. I do it elsewhere. We love No Code that'll work for like $2,000 a month, which
Hmm.
if you have revenue coming in is feasible. If you don't, it's a
Hmm.
lot of money. But that does a pretty good job. Like we design in house on Figma, and we give it to them, and so that's the process. But we were thinking about doing some Bubble stuff. Just because a, a lot of the no code stuff doesn't scale. Some of it does, but like
Hmm.
the login stuff, like you need to be at like auth 0 or something. Like the payment gateway stuff, like if you're using MemberStack and Outseta and that type of stuff, that's great if you're a solopreneur. If you're a business, I promise it won't scale. It won't. It might not even scale like past 10 sales. Like if depending on what you want to do with it and what reporting you need, right?
Right. Right. And one of the places where that stuff falls down quickest is just in scale of project, right? You guys are already managing several different pages across your Webflow, and you're trying to do lots of different things. You've already mentioned you've got Webflow, you've got Typeform in the mix, HubSpot,
The
Odessa
job board
for
Fire. The job board is a third party job board
right.
Fire. It integrates via Zapier to HubSpot, to Slack, and other stuff. We have Slack in there. We probably have between 60 and 80 tools, which sounds like a ton, and I actually think it is. Apparently, the average enterprise, and we're not an enterprise, has 120 tools, to give a
Yeah.
little bit of perspective.
Yeah, it's always crazy when you actually take a break and look at all the things you're using for your business. You even when you're like a month into it, you're already probably at 30, right?
It's crazy. We just sunsetted Asana to do everything in Notion. Like we're like, we could just use this for everything. And by the way, at worst, during the best functionality, it's the same, but it has so much more. It's crazy. You know, slight tangent, like with this, like this is one of the reasons why I just recently became an advisor for a company called Syncery.
Mhm.
There's definitely a no code component to what they do, and an easily outsourced component, or build yourself, being a non-technical founder. But like we're going to essentially plug in all of our tools that have data flowing. It might
Mhm.
not be Miro, it might not be a Notion in our case, it might be Notion in other people's cases,
Mhm.
but all to this essentially data pipeline, right down to HubSpot, both CRM and marketing, unifying the data across, because this
That's
is
cool.
something that breaks. You have data in all these systems, and you have Clearbit, and Clearbit's just enriching your CRM. So if it doesn't hit your CRM, and by the way, your active campaign is over here, and your active campaign is tied to it, your CRM, sure, but it's not flowing in as well as it should. Your active campaign data might be different than your CRM data, might be different than your data pipeline, because you're a no code, early stage, um, not technical, right, founder. And I'm like, this Syncery tool just like unifies it all. It's not cheap, um, but if you're scaling, and if you're doing $1 million a year in revenue, if you're doing $500,000 a year in revenue, you have to, with intention to do more,
Mhm.
you have to really think about this, because you're not using your data effectively. Like I had a call
Right.
today, like we're not using our data effectively, and that's why we had to outsource stuff to a HubSpot agency in our case, because we use HubSpot.
Mhm.
Um, we transitioned from Airtable for our
Right.
CRM. Like I did it lean, and I've used Salesforce
Right. I love
forever,
it.
but when it's myself, I tried to do HubSpot in the beginning. And we're like, F it, like let's just do Airtable for our CRM. And now we're like, okay, we need to be able to use data better. Like HubSpot
Right.
is significantly better than Airtable if you're starting to get a little more complex with it,
Mhm.
and still supports a not technical founder, right? But when it starts to get technical, and it's not even technical, like updating the CRM at all. Like we could do this, I just don't have time for it.
Right. Right.
So to
Exactly.
be clear, like the Salesforce ecosystem, at least early, is significantly more difficult to maintain, than HubSpot. HubSpot, and I don't work for the company. I told you I'm advising Syncery, not HubSpot. It's it's better, but like still, even if you could do it, you need to outsource stuff, um, whenever possible and affordable.
There's a couple things in there that you said that I want to touch on because I really like them. One is you guys started on a Google spreadsheet, right? Was one of the places where you started
Yeah.
organizing these events. And there's a ton of buzz now around no code and around the word no code. And you mentioned bubble. People like Bubble are kind of trying to own some of these terms, right? But Google Spreadsheets is no code.
Yeah.
And Airtable is no code. And
Yeah.
a piece of paper and a phone is no code, right? There are no code solutions to running your business that aren't no code TM with the branding behind them, right?
So yeah, and one thing with Google Sheets, they just stepped up big time this last week. Did you see what they did?
No, I did not.
So you're able to scrape things into Google Sheets now. You're able to there's like a token. I think you do database. I need to look into this more, but it sounds like you could do database relationship management with Google Sheets, not just like VLOOKUP function, which
Right,
goes to
right.
something else. I think it's a lot more seamless with that. And I think that move is killer. And I think the people that the competition that gets affected the most is Airtable, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Notion to an extent, although Notion is more than that, but those types of tools, I this is so rad. Like Google's going to come into the no code game with fire. Like
Yeah.
this is like the first thing they did. That's like not just a spreadsheet with commands. It's like a spreadsheet that connects to databases, connects to scraping and all of that. And then now today, what's interesting as well, yeah, and the no code. So no code is everything, right? Like
Mhm.
without a code, it's
Right,
anything.
right.
It's anything you could connect with anything else without like really, it's anything you connect to anything else without writing a line of code. So if you could fill out a type form and have it send you an email saying thank you for filling out the type form, and all you did was like drag a couple things around or like hit a drop down menu or two, that's no code.
Right.
I will say this: no code is not simple
Right.
at all. No code requires thought. Like if you're really not technical and not thoughtful, no code is not going to be easy.
Right.
All right. I tried setting up an unbounce uh, landing page. That thing sucked. Like it was the hard. I'm like, I might as well just use Webflow because like at least I have one system, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Um, like why am I doing another system? I thought this would make it faster. It does not. But yeah, I don't want to mislead people. Now,
Mhm.
what is interesting though is you're able to growth hack now without code. Like this was something like you have to be an engine. Growth hackers of yesteryear were engineers that figured out how to scrape sites, tie things together, and all
Right.
that. You could use Clay.run. You know Clay? They're
I don't know
awesome.
Clay, no.
Oh man, and build full spreadsheets of things that you scrape from anywhere.
Yeah.
You can use Phantom Buster, for instance. That might be
Phantom
something that
Buster's
you know
big,
better.
yep.
But Phantom
You mentioned
Buster,
Zapier.
yeah, Zapier's amazing. It's not amazing at scale, right? Like if you have
Right.
things breaking left and right, and
Yep,
that's
yeah.
why that's another reason for Syncari. You put everything in here, it acts as like a connector as well, and if something goes down, you don't have to redo it. It's already there. As soon as you plug it back in, it just keeps going. So
I
like
I
so
gotta I
that
guess I
if
gotta schedule a call with Synchrony.
I mean depending on what you're building, man, like I am bullish
Awesome.
on Syncari. Like that team is out of control. Like uh, beyond me. Like they get me excited.
Cool.
And yeah, so you have Zapier, then you're an enterprise. You have Workato or Tray connecting everything, right? Um, but the data unification isn't there. Like you're
Right.
connecting all these tools, and you're just sure you're enriching it into one thing, but you have 120 tools, man. James, like so again, a not technical founder does not mean a not thoughtful founder. You have
Right.
120 tools, you're doing better than most. You have 75. Where are you keeping track of that?
Right.
What's the
How you're
documentation in the
connecting it.
process? What are you using each for? You don't have to be technical, but you do have to be thoughtful.
Mhm. Yeah, if there's I think a misconception that no code or low code means no
Do it for you.
complexity or low
Yeah.
complexity, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why code exists is because it's a way to formalize complexity into a thing that computers are really good at handling, right? That's kind of what code is. If you're not able to formalize that complexity into code, which most people aren't, you need to formalize that complexity into something else, right? And that's usually going to be systems or systems of systems. You've you can't hand wave away the hard part. It's either going to get written into code or it's going to get strung together through a series of no code tools. One of the things I like that you mentioned before is it's it's okay to run certain things for a while they work for you and to scale out of them, right? So you guys moved from this Google spreadsheet to the actual website that you guys did in Webflow. You moved from Airtable to HubSpot. Now you're moving in and bringing in I just totally blank Synchrony. Sorry, Synchrony. To tie this all together. This is also not something that you have to make a decision today that's going to be the rest of your platform forever, right? You can get something out the door and
Yep.
make changes as you need to.
And you have to get it out the door. And then also keep in mind, I have potential sponsors filling out type forms, and I'm getting duplicates in Slack yesterday. And in HubSpot, it's creating a ghost contact, as I call it, like a duplicate without the name. And the same one here, the opportunity is attaching here. This isn't something that is technical, but it's thoughtful. Like you have to
Right.
figure, like I can't have duplicates every time something comes in. And God forbid, the irony is we do triple as well. We have triple as much trash in our CRM and stuff. And I think what's important, big takeaways are early stage, get it out the door. And we are still early stage, right? But like when you're building something, you build it to get it out and to make it happen. Somewhere towards like the middle to end of year one, or like I say year one, but like when you're starting to gain some traction, then you go behind the scenes and you go, you know, uh, you know, back end everything and figure out like where the data's from. We had no data on any of our members and any of our first 5,000 members or 3,000 members, none, because what we were doing was I was just inviting them through Slack. Like just like invite. So
Right.
I had their emails, right?
Right.
So now you got to fix that. So we came up with partnerships with enrichment people to like enrich it. Great. You enrich 70% of it. Amazing. What happens to the 30%? Who are these people? And you have to understand that there's some that you'll never get, but then
Hmm.
then you have to put them in a system of record, right? Like so we had nothing, no system of records. Then we created an Airtable as our database version 1, and I didn't do it. I brought on a co-founder that was more technical than I,
Hmm.
even still, and he's not all the way technical, but he is more technical, and frankly, there's a lot of logic in that, right? Like,
Hmm.
and he's our head of product. Um, but like, yeah, even still, I had to bring on somebody more technical, more thoughtful, more logical that would use those tools. And then we created version 1, and then, and then we figured out who to contract along the way to create our own data pipeline, like a business intelligence person, because you could go to market fast being not technical. But I used to always say it as a cliche, like data is important. Yeah, whatever. No, no, data is ridiculously important,
Right.
and managing your data well requires a level of sophistication. I'll say, like no matter what tools you're using, you have to have a sophistication in your mind with how you're building out your processes, how you're organizing your data, and you need to know what you need it for, right? Like, is it to create a sponsor prospectus? Is it to understand if we throw an event, who's the ICP, ideal
Right.
customer profile for that? If we launch a product like for SDRs, understand who the SDRs are here, aggregate what teams have the most SDRs already in our community so that we could say like, hey, there's a level of intent for being here and all of
Hmm.
that. You don't need to be technical, but you need to be thoughtful, as I keep saying, like, and a level of sophistication, because the better you can use that data. I went from not knowing anything, just the emails, right? to enriching that, sure, and then being able to maybe invite certain people, great, to being able to know what companies have the biggest presence, the most people, okay, to the companies at the positions having the most people, okay, to the people, next step, that have been here the most recent,
Right.
active in all of this. You need that. Otherwise, you can't target, folks accordingly. So like you could be at a certain level of engagement or whatever key metric you're at. To get to this level, you need to understand why these people are there, who actually is not there, not just the percentages, and then why a few, like, and that also includes feedback loops with people. So like you could do feedback loops on Typeform and not be technical, but what you end up developing as you're trying to get more stuff, to be more helpful, to be smarter about things, is slight technicality. Slight, I won't say a lot, but does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I want to highlight to anyone listening, this is one of the things that's so powerful about community. People get so focused on their ideas, on the products, on sexy design, on all this list of features that they want to ship to customers. But if anyone listening, if you had 25,000 related customers who are in your audience, you have access to them at a drop of a hat because they're on your platform. You know all the things that Jared knows about them. You have demonstrated value to them, so they trust you because they're on your platform. Think about how much easier it would be, that beautiful idea you have, all the sexy designs you want to launch, the big fancy list of features. Think about how much easier that launch would be if you started from the position that Jared's in right now. As Jared's demonstrated in this call, that didn't require a bunch of devs working 6 months to get this product at the door. It was something that he was able to launch quickly. So I just want to, that's again, the power of community is you guys now have a platform, for an entrepreneurship platform for yourselves via which you can launch anything you want now, right?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Now picture you have 25,000 people and you don't know anything about them. You're
Right.
going to level yourself up to close your own gaps, because otherwise, like, they're going to leave and you're going to have no idea why.
Yeah.
Community is community-led growth is something the CTO of HubSpot uses amongst other folks, and it's true. I mean, obviously, I believe that, but it's so potent, and I think, but I think understanding why they're there, and how to get, so like it's great to have 25,000. How do you get them,
Hmm.
right? Like, and how do you how, and how do you make sure that they stay? Like, not having a product per se. We just launched a product that's a community product for our community members. But if you have a SaaS tool that's a sales engagement platform or something, or an email platform, how do you get people to come? Like, they know you're going to sell them something, and I think that was kind of leading. You can't sell them,
Right.
and if that, I think where people get mixed up is they try to use community for demand gen first,
Hmm.
instead of realizing that demand gen is a natural consequence of it. Setting KPIs that require you to, um, you know, go into the community in a way that it feels like they're selling something or buying or need to buy something versus helping them.
Hmm.
You need to help the people. And I think this is why customer success communities are so potent and so good with folks that with SaaS companies in particular, When you build a community of your clients, they're already your clients. So you don't have to set those KPIs like first and foremost to get their business because you already have them.
Hmm.
So you set KPIs more around helping them
Hmm.
and more around increasing their business. And you're probably not going to direct sell them as much as like a general community that's backed by a tech product, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm also bullish on what Gainsight's doing with their community stuff. They just bought a community tool, Insight League, I think. Don't quote me on.
The startup names are always hard to
No,
keep
no,
track of.
I definitely missed the name, but yeah, I love customer success communities so much if you have a SaaS product. But the gap is if you don't have enough clients and you want to start a community to get enough clients, what do you do? And my answer to that is just help a
Hmm.
shit ton of people do what they need to do and don't force your product down their throat. Maybe not even suggest it. Don't even suggest it. Uh, yeah, and just keep helping people. And there's some companies that do that well. Funnel IQ does that pretty well with
Hmm.
RevOps Co-op as an example off the top of my head. ComSort does
Awesome.
that pretty well with Community Club, where they
Okay.
just have a community of community builders. And
I
everyone
love
knows this
it.
ComSort. RevOps Co-op, there's a little further line away, but those are two that are pretty good with it.
Okay.
I'm just
So
plugging everybody today,
no,
like
I know, I love it.
all the homies. I need the support back.
Well, we'll get them all on the show. We'll make them all talk about Rev Genius. So
No, don't make them. Don't make them. I'm just here to help others.
awesome, Jared. Well, on that note, this has been a fantastic conversation. Lots of value. The last thing I want to ask you: anything that we didn't talk about, anything that I should have asked you about that you think would be super helpful for non-technical founders getting started on this journey?
Yeah, I think with non-technical founders getting started. So I love the phrase "ready, fire, aim." Like so often we're planning and we're planning and we're planning, and they what do they say? Those who fail to plan to fail. Okay, fine. I failed hundreds of times and I'm still going in this whole journey, right? But the key thing is I'm still going and I started,
Hmm.
right? So like get to go. Um, Never underestimate the power of being kind to others.
Hmm.
Like we're not technical. We're not going to build our own AI algorithms or the farthest advanced technology. We're humans, and I think being non-technical can be a major advantage if you leverage like the human capability. And what I mean by that is like you saw me, plug those people that when you said that, like I'm here to help others. Be like that in your journey. Always help. And when I threw caution to the wind early, I wasn't making any money. Um, I don't know how I afforded to not make any money, but I figured it out. You'll always figure it out. Have faith in that, and and give, and give more, and don't expect anything in return. Okay, as a non-technical founder, you're probably in sales or operations. Operations may even be technical for you, maybe marketing, maybe somewhere in between. But like sales is probably like one of the least technical spots. That's where I came from. And giving to others, helping others achieve what they want, even if it means that you don't get a sale from it, especially if it means you don't get a sale from it, away from your business or business model, just help somebody get a job. Keep doing that into the universe. Um, and say what you want to the universe. Don't say it to the person you help.
Hmm.
Like I want this company to hit $1 million. I want this company to be sold. I want this company to change the world. Whatever it is, say it, and eventually you'll get it. I think so often we're lost, not lost. We're consumed by not getting started, and all the noise out there. Like there's so many things to help that it paralyzes you. Just go, and then also that we're needy with things, right? Like we need to gain from every interaction, and simply don't do that. If you need help, ask for it. Like,
Hmm.
instead of trying to sell somebody a product, if you don't know how to sell, say, I don't know how to sell. Can somebody help me? And I
Right.
want to give you more than I get. So always give more than you could get as well. And I just want to leave on that note. Like, especially for the not technical founders, I think those are important messages. Frankly, they're important for the technical founders as well.
They are.
But
They are.
they're important for every human.
Yeah.
But if you have the most advanced tools, like that you could create yourself, there's more you could hide behind, and that's not necessarily good. Being a not technical founder is an advantage because we have to connect with the human more. We
Hmm.
have to. We have to
Yep.
sell face to face, because the technical people can hide in the basement, just build their products and growth hack all day. We are forced to be seen, and that is a beautiful advantage.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful advantage. And if you don't know how to talk to people, learn to talk to people. Come to RevGenius. I'll plug our community. No cost to join, but use it as an advantage to get out, meet people, and help others.
Beautiful, beautiful ending. Before everyone goes off to be helpful and multiply, um, I want to plug RevGenius as well. First of all, just as an example of a fantastic community, if you are interested in building a community, Jared is a really great example to follow. Uh, as Jared mentioned, if you are a non-technical founder, you are in sales by default. You're now in sales. You are now your head salesperson. RevGenius is a great place also for you to learn about this field. It is a field with lots of skills that you can learn. I think as someone who's outside of it, you don't know that, but there is depth and depth and depth, and RevGenius is a place where that you can learn about that depth.
James, I'm so humbled and grateful to be here. I appreciate your time. This whole topic is just awesome, and really love the niche that you've created. And RevGenius.com, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. RevGenius.com. Go check it out. Also, it's a place to hire SDRs and other professionals. So if you're looking for sales help as well, there are 25,000 of them looking for help. So definitely go check it out for that reason as well. Jared, again, thank you so much. I've been actually just a quick little side. We had a podcast a year ago that I wanted to talk to you then, and it never worked out. So I'm really, really glad that we finally got to sit down. I've been watching you for a couple of years now. Really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks, man. How was last year? Out of curiosity,
How was last year?
how have I grown since last year? How's
Yeah,
the
well, I
community grown?
mean, you're one of the people on LinkedIn that I love. I love just the things you post, right? It's you're even on LinkedIn. You're so community oriented, and I actually have a post that I saved of yours where you asked other non-technical founders, kind of a shout out, and you shouted out in the comments to a bunch of people came and shouted out to others. And that was actually super helpful for me, that thread, because it was a way for me to find other people that I might be able to talk to here.
Oh, that makes my day. I really love that. Thank you
Awesome,
so much,
Jared.
man. Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you so much, and we'll talk again in a year or so, and we can get an update with RevGenius then.
Let's talk in a month or so, or a week or so. I'm
Perfect.
down.
Awesome, Jared. Thanks so much.